After 7 months on Kwajalein, I was notified that I was being sent back to Pearl Harbor. When I got there, I was sent to a camp where amphibious forces were getting ready for another invasion. I was informed that I would be a crew member on the landing craft vehicle for personnel, a craft that took soldiers ashore. Our LVCP was loaded aboard a troop transport ship, and after a few days we headed out for the South Pacific. We were at sea 54 days before we reached New Guinea. We learned in New Guinea that we were joining a task force that would take General MacArthur back to the Philippines. When we arrived at Leyte Gulf, our convoy was attacked by many Japanese planes. We were preparing our boats to take the Army personnel aboard ship ashore when a Japanese fighter plane strafed our ship. I was about halfway up a ladder going from the second deck below the main deck. I was heading for the LCVP that would be launched in a few minutes. We would be one of the first waves to hit the beach because we would be taking soldiers ashore who would protect the tanks that would be in a second or third wave. When the Japanese fighter strafed our ship, I did not bother to climb down the ladder. My buddies said that I did not touch a single step on the way down. I slid down by holding the sides of the ladder. It was not funny when I heard the bullets hitting our ship. The Army Air Corps bombers, Navy bombers, and fighter planes had driven the Japanese back at least 500 to 1,000 yards from the beach, so our landing craft did not draw heavy fire as we unloaded the infantry onto the beach. After the initial landing, we were taken off the ship with our boats to the town of Tacloban on Leyte. We were advised that we would be left on Leyte to form a boat pool to perform the same duties that we had performed on Kwajalein. We knew when the Japanese would attack the ships in the harbor because Tokyo Rose would name the ships in the harbor that Japanese planes would be strafing and bombing. One morning, a kamikaze pilot dove his plane into the middle of one of the ships that was targeted for that morning. Miraculously, only one person on the ship was killed. The Japanese would bomb the airport near Tacloban every night. The Army Air Corps and the Navy were using the airfield as a base to bomb and attack the island of Luzon and other Philippine islands. Every night, when the air raid warning would sound, we would say, "The Japs have not come close to our barracks on a single raid, so it is a big waste of time to get off our cots and head for the foxholes, so let's not go tonight." About 10 minutes after the bombs started exploding nearby, we would be on a dead run for our foxholes that had been dug by our barracks. One morning at muster in Tacloban, a Navy Chief Petty Officer advised us that he wanted volunteers to go on an invasion of one of the other islands in the Philippines. The Chief told us that we would be invading the island of Palawan. He said, "Anyone that wants to volunteer, please step forward." I believe the entire company stepped forward. Our unit did not land under fire. Palawan had been secured before we unloaded our equipment. It was a very sad landing. We didn't know whether the officers who were in charge of the landing craft had been advised that there was an American prisoner of war camp on Palawan. Before the American forces hit the beach, the Japanese dug huge trenches and lined the 150 American prisoners of war up along the trenches and machine gunned them so they would fall into the trenches. The Japanese soaked the bodies with gasoline and set the bodies on fire in hopes of covering up their atrocities. Most of the men in our unit had served in the invasion of Tarawa in the Gilbert Islands or Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands, so we had seen many dead bodies. The bodies were Japanese, not American. It was quite a shock to all the Americans on the island as to how the Japanese had treated prisoners of war.